In this week's EV news, 54% of UK drivers want to switch to an EV in the next 5 years. An Australian bank is going to stop offering loans for purchases of petrol or diesel cars. Maxus launched the first EV pickup truck in Europe. Fleet drivers can now use the All-Star One electric fuel card on GridServe Electric Highway. And Polestar are to open a test drive hub and UK HQ in Oxfordshire. Welcome back to another EV news, assuming you're not new here of course. If you are new, click that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss the next one. And for everyone, click like. It costs you nothing, helps the video reach other people who want to know about the latest EV news. Let's get straight into it then, and first up, a statistic that some of the naysayers might find quite surprising. Hive, the smart home arm of British Gas, known for the smart thermostats and stuff like that, say that 54% of British drivers want to switch to electric cars within the next 5 years. That's a pretty strong statistic, suggesting that a decent number of people are trying to get ahead of the game with the sale of new petrol and diesel cars ending in 2030, according to the current government target at least. This stance supports data collected by New Automotive, who found more EVs being bought in 2022 so far already than in the whole of 2020. The EV market is continuing to grow, and in July 2022, EVs accounted for 11.1% of the market, with 11,240 new EVs registered. That being said, there's still a fair amount of dodgy information out there. Over a quarter of people surveyed by Hive believe that home charging would be more expensive than using public chargers amid the current cost of living crisis that is seeing energy bills soaring. Unless all of those people live in the last few parts of Scotland where public charging is still free, I'm not sure that's the case. I mean, we're approaching 70 pence per kilowatt hour almost for a lot of public charging now. So unless you've signed yourself up to some ridiculous fixed rate tariff, it's going to be cheaper at home. By incorporating the Hive smart home platform, EV drivers are able to charge their car when prices are at the lowest and when the most renewable energy is available on the grid, with integrated automated charging feature that is able to support the balancing of the grid. This both reduces the cost of charging an EV and reduces a customer's carbon footprint by utilising energy that is greener. Hive say that most people are unaware that a home charger could be linked to their energy provider, showing the need for clearer information in this area. To support customers, Hive Smart Charge Saver, a brand new tariff add-on supplied by British Gas and powered by Hive, is being trialled by 100 customers this week. It's an add-on that works with Hive EV charging and any British Gas tariff, using intelligent scheduling to charge a customer's EV at the cheapest and greenest time of day. Customers get a discount of 2 pence per kilowatt hour whenever the EV is plugged in continuously for 6 hours or more, and 7 pence per kilowatt hour if the car is plugged in for longer, equating to a maximum saving of £2.10 per full charge for a 30 kilowatt hour battery and £4.20 for a 60 kilowatt hour battery. I think any competition in the smart tariff space is welcome. Octopus obviously massively dominate it, they are the go-to for most EV drivers, and the other big providers haven't been coming anywhere near this. So maybe this is the first sign that British Gas via Hive are looking to get a bit serious about this. Although what I will say is that tariffs that tie you to a particular type of home charger, not something I'm really a fan of, and I'm not sure it's really necessary. But let me know what you think in the comments. Next up, an Australian bank has said they're going to stop offering loans for the purchase of petrol and diesel cars as the country looks to increase EV uptake. Bank Australia have said that they will scrap loans for new fossil fuel powered vehicles from 2025, saying that the change to electric vehicles needs to happen quickly. They're including hybrids in that ban, although they will continue to offer loans for the purchase of used vehicles until there is a viable and thriving market for electric vehicles, they say. They're not unique in this strategy towards vehicles powered using fossil fuels. In 2020, Denmark's Merkur Cooperative Bank said it would halt financing for new petrol and diesel cars as well. This news comes as the Australian government provides information about plans to set up a national electric vehicle strategy for the country, with a discussion paper on the matter due to be released for consultation. In an announcement, the government said Australia was significantly behind the pack when it comes to electric vehicles. It added that at just 2%, the country's uptake of new low-emission vehicles was nearly 5 times lower than the global average. Now, whilst there's absolutely no doubt that further action is required in Australia, where it sounds like things are really stalling and that it's quite concerning, I'm not 100% convinced that banks refusing to lend is the answer. For those not ready to make the transition, all that will do is make things harder and more expensive, which I'm sure some of you will say, well, that's ideal because that'll drive EV adoption, but in the real world, is that really the best approach? It is interesting though. In these days of environment, social governance criteria, more and more lenders will move away from what they consider to be unethical sources of income. I'm not sure it will happen that quickly. They'll say this is just one lender in Australia after all. And as I said, they're not quite giving up the fossil fuel cash cow just yet, given they're staying in used vehicles. But it's a concept that could definitely be applied on a wider scale. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm sure it'll be a controversial one, this one. Next up, Chinese EV brand Maxus, from the same stable as MG, have launched the first all-electric pickup truck in Europe. The T90 EV is now on sale here in the UK, with the first deliveries expected in the first quarter of 2023. Maxus have been making quite the entry into the electric commercial vehicle market. The eDeliver 3 seems to be absolutely everywhere, and I can see why. It's fairly cheap, well, good value, if you like, well-spec'd electric van that should do everything you want from it in that form factor. The T90 EV I'm not quite so sure about though. Whilst it's a fairly familiar shape and size for a double cab pickup, and it has that all-important 1,000 kilogram payload, although I'm not sure that's quite as important anymore with the benefit in kind rates as low as they currently are for EVs. Its 88.5 kilowatt hour battery provides 220 miles of range. There's one massive elephant in the room, and that is the price. £49,950. Excluding VAT is what it will cost to get you in the driver's seat of an electric pickup. Pretty much double the price of a base model Ford Ranger or Isuzu D-Max. Any fleet operator would almost certainly rather have two diesel pickups than one electric one, at least while you can still use a Euro 6 one in clean air zones without paying additional fees. I'm sure it'll work out commercially for some, but for me it's an insane amount of money and it makes it quite difficult to justify, I would think, where it's a tool for a job. I'd love to have a go in one though, just to see what it's like. These cheaper diesel pickups set the bar pretty high in terms of refinement and stuff, so it'll need to be a pretty strong product to compete, bringing more than just the fact it's electric to the party. Comments, is a 50 grand electric pickup a step too far? I feel like commercial vehicles have got such a long way to go before they're going to be bought en masse by businesses, especially smaller ones who are just not going to afford that. Now, I know how much you love a bit of GridServe news, so you'll love this next story. Allstar, the fuel card provider, have announced a partnership with GridServe that sees their Allstar One electric fuel card be accepted at all GridServe electric highway locations, making it the first third-party payment provider alongside contactless to be accepted there. The partnership enables the Allstar One electric card and roaming cards that are part of the Allstar network, such as Mina Charge Pass, to have full access to the GridServe electric highway, including their two flagship electric forecourts in Braintree and Norwich, as well as their new high-power electric super hubs and medium-power electric hubs that cover 85% of the UK's motorway service areas, which I'm sure if you've driven an EV in the UK at any point, you'll be very familiar with. This is fantastic news. Fleet drivers need to be able to access chargers, and the rules around company expenses mean a fuel card is probably one of the easiest ways to do it. If you can just give your employees a fuel card that covers the charging network that they'll find at the vast majority of service stations, as well as the electric forecourts, it means staff are even more likely to want to choose an electric vehicle for their next company car. It's not just GridServe either. This Allstar card includes a bunch of other networks, including Osprey, Genie Point, Source London, ESB, and others, which, especially if they keep adding to that selection, I would think makes it a pretty good choice for company car users. They're also partnering with ZapMap, so that if you've got one of these cards, you can look on ZapMap and see exactly where your card will be accepted, which is great stuff, especially for those that are new to EVs. Aggregators like this and others like Octopus Electric Juice have got great potential for massively simplifying the public charging experience. Although we do run a real danger of a XKCD style standard scenario where there's just loads of cards that all claim to cover all the charge points you need. So, we definitely don't want to be in that situation where you still have a wallet full of different cards because they all cover, 3 or 4 chargers each. But I think it's a very good move, and it makes the All-Star One card very appealing. And finally, Polestar have announced that they are going to open a test drive hub and UK headquarters in Oxfordshire. Based at the Bicester Heritage Complex, it will be home to all operational staff, including the customer care centre team which Polestar UK recently took in-house, sales, marketing, communications and operations functions. Since its 2020 launch, there are already around 8,000 Polestar EVs on UK roads, and the company expects to continue to grow this number rapidly. Polestar Test Drive Hub on the ground floor will offer a welcoming environment for customers to experience the Polestar electric cars, interact with Polestar specialists and take a test drive. If you want to know more about my experience test driving a Polestar 2, check out this next video.